Praise the Lord, my beautiful, blessed souls. I am back, bruised and not broken. Excuse me, with another word that I just want to share. That has really been blessing me as I'm going through this journey myself. I am going to talk about a few things with this one. I'm in 1 Corinthians 13, which we all know as the love chapter, and it's God's love, and He's showing us His love for us as well as how we're supposed to love, because everyone wants love, but we don't really know what love is. So we're going to get started into talking about these things, and because God said hope, faith, and love, but out of all of them, make sure you get love. But we need hope, faith, and we also need love. We need all three. So I want to read the passage, and I want to get on with the conversation about love. And we're going to go back from when we were children up until what we know love to be, how we understand love and our versions of love, because we all have them. And I wanted to wait until, but I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get it, because this is something that is very, very important. I think because we're all searching for not only love, but we all need hope. We need faith. Without faith, we cannot please God. And hope and faith go together. And love is like the icing on the cake. So I'm going to, this is 1 Corinthians 13. And it says, love is indispensable. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. So when they're discussing this, we're seeing what God is saying to us about these things. So keep these things in your mind. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no records of wrong. And there's one portion about this that a lot of scriptures do not have. It is also long-suffering. And that is one of the things that most people do not talk about when they talk about love. Why? Because no one wants to suffer long, but we're going to get into it. So love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always preserves. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be still. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. This is for all of us. We all know things in part. None of us have all the answers. The only one that has all the answers is God. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, right? I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put away the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, and then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. So this is what this is all about. And I really felt this in my spirit and in my soul, because it really blessed me. And I hope that it's going to be a blessing to someone else out there. And love is in everything we do. When I say faith, hope, and love is in everything, because it takes us to live this world, to live our lives. We have to have some type of faith. We have to have some type of hope in it. We have to have some type of love. even if it's our own version of it, which, our version and the world's version and God's version is different. People have love in different ways in their minds. What is considered love to one is may not be the same to another. So, but what God love is totally different, because it's all situations, it fits all circumstances, and this is how we gotta look. So I'm gonna go back and discuss, because in order for us to think about love, okay, we must go back to when we were children, because this is going to shape how we love others. And this is people, places, and things, because remember, love is not just attached to one thing. Love is attached to your job, what you like to do or love to do, the type of career that you pursued. Love is attached to all of these things, because you must love it in some type of a way to have, went to school for it, to, you had to have faith and hope that you would, be able to do whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So it is. So let's get back to when it spoke about when I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. So now when we look at that, how we were raised, or how, if we had love in our, which we're in an imperfect world. And, that is going to affect, like I said, a lot of it. And I remember reading this book years ago. It's called The Keys to Codependency. And it talks about how we grow up being codependent in some fashion, form, of whatever stages in our life. And the reason that is, remember, we're not perfect, and without, we're only perfected through God. And usually, if we have a relationship with God, or we had one, we've been there, we left, whatever the case may be. We haven't gone through the complete process. And none of us have, because we're still here on this earth. So like it said, we will only know in bits and pieces. We will never know the full story, the whole story. But what I'm learning in my own life is, when God talks about giving it to us in pieces, this is exactly what he does. So I'm going to just talk about my own life, because I can't speak about things I don't know, which is other people's lives and what their experience is. So I speak from my own self. So now here, when I grew up, okay, first I lived with my mom, and I told you guys, every time I say that, it is a blessing that we are now even speaking, because that was a part of my life that was very, very traumatic. And when I think about even what was going on in this world at the time, see, the devil is tricky, because he knows how to do things. And he knows how to allow even the things like the presidencies and all of these worldly things. He uses all of these things. And when we look at them as tools to fashion and shape our lives, that's why we think television and, phones and social media, all of these things mean something. And don't you ever get it twisted. They all have and serve a purpose here. And when we're talking about things of the world, technically speaking, in one fashion they would be good. But remember, he loves to contaminate. He loves to commingle. He loves to present things to us and make us think these things are good and godly, and, God is in them, and, he's not. And so this is why we have to be very careful of what is going on in our lives. And we have to look at what's going on also in the world around us. So now, when I grew up, I was born in 1979. So, at the time, I had an older sister. She was 4 years older than me. It was, my mom and my dad had split up already. And I was a baby, but for whatever reason, I was sickly, and I didn't even understand that. Like, to this day, it's like I've been saying to myself, like, the devil really has been after me, like, literally all my life. I had rubella, which is back then was considered the German measles, which it was very rare for a person to have that, but more than anything, for an infant to have that at that time was very rare. I had thrush. They said I had to get my mouth scraped and all this other stuff, as a child. So there was a lot of things going on with me, even as a child. I was already born into, but I didn't understand that then. I'm understanding it now as I'm learning, as I'm going on with my life. And God is showing me what was going on then and why, and what, significance it means to me now. So then my mom, eventually she ended up on drugs. She was, I guess, my mother has 8 kids. okay, and my dad has 4. So it's a lot of us. You see what I'm saying? And then to top it off, we must understand during that era was the 80s. She was a single mom. You know, her and my dad broke up. She had already was young, got 2 kids. She's struggling. Things is going on in her life. I'm quite sure. You know, she was from the South, moved up here at a young age to New York to be with her, you know, older sibling, and a lot went on in her life. You know what I'm saying? And so I wondered what happened to her, you know, even her own story, which I want to one day sit down and really be able to listen to her as to what happened to her, because hurt people, and something happened. No matter what is going on, something happened. And I did not, when I grew up, I hated the way that my parents were, and I said I didn't want to be like them. And then when it came to my own children, when I became an adult and a parent, and I started to understand a lot about what they went through, then it changed. But we still keep good and bad from our parents, whether we know it, want it or not. And I'm going to get to that later. So as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking that God is showing me, so then I was always afraid of the dark. I went to bed a lot up until I was, you know, a certain age. But it was because I would always have nightmares and I would see things and I would have dreams and have visions. But not only would I see them when I was asleep, when I awoke, I still saw them. So it wasn't like it was just something that I saw when I was only, like, let's say I was having a dream and then I woke up and then I would still see what was in my dream right in front of me still, even though I woke up and I'm running around the house. So my sister used to tease me all the time, and I used to pee the bed, and I didn't want to sleep by myself, and I was afraid of the dark. But see, it built me into being afraid, and my mother used to whoop me because I would pee the bed. I wouldn't get out the bed. It was just a lot. And so when I think about it now, I'm like, why is this happening to me? And I would be so afraid, and I would see all of these evil, weird, strange things like dragons and snakes and all this evil stuff. And I'm like, what is wrong? And I always felt like something was wrong with me, but it made me, it just instilled fear into me. And I believe the devil used those things because those were kind of like the gifts that God was going to have me in. And I think the devil used it to strip me, to make me fearful and not want to see it, not want to learn it about what it was. Because people told me I was weird, I was strange, I was crazy, and they laughed at me. And even in my own household, you know, and I was peeing the bed up until 5 or 6 or 7 years old. Like, you know, who wants to do that? And so then when she, you know, as she had my younger siblings, and they, and then my the little brother, he had issues with his heart. And then I grew up and I had some issues as well with mine. Well, not gonna say it like that, but I guess that was something that was kind of like, you know, with us. But then we get older, and then not much older, my mom has, you know, but a couple more kids, and then I end up becoming like the little Cinderella, the one who's taking care of them. And, you know, all the other stuff with the molestation and all that starts where, you know, she's getting high and she needs money, and we're the dirty kids, and we're going to school, and I'm being teased and, you know, mistreated because, you know, we're poor, we're disheveled, we look a hot mess. You know, children who were born to parents who were addicted to drugs, especially crack at the time, because they flooded our area, our projects. Or it was not just ours, but, you know, at that time, this is what was going on in the world. So not only was she single and had all these kids because of what was going on in the world as well, but now, you know, she also has this addiction. I guess they did it to escape what their reality was. She's alone. She has all these children. She wanted love. She ran away. You know, she didn't run away, but she left, you know, her home in Alabama to come to New York. And I guess she was looking for a fresh start. And whatever happened, it didn't happen the way her expectation, whatever she wanted in her mind for her life, it just did not happen the way she thought it was or wanted it to. So that brought in discouragement, depression, and all these other things. And then when you add in people, places, and things up here in, you know, the big city, and she's a little country girl, and she has to learn, she's not from here, and she's drinking and smoking and doing all these things with these, I guess, friends and whoever she, you know, affiliated herself with. And so this is how a lot of things can come to pass, and we must pay attention also with what is going on in our environment, current events wise. This is why I say, because they have an effect, and the devil does not just work in the supernatural and spiritual, he works right here. So things will be, you know, happening, and we have to be paying attention. And I asked God, well, why? Well, does he allow these things? Well, One, because we are sinful people. And whether we're born into it, some of us, most of us usually are. Mostly all of us are. And we have a generational thing going on that we already born into, we didn't even know from, our forefathers or whatever it is that was going on. Now, I do know that my mother's father, my grandfather, was killed when she was young, and she was his favorite. And I know that that was very traumatic for her, but I don't really know what else. And I really want to get to that, to what happened to her. And as we go on our journey trying to mend our relationship, I'm quite sure it will happen, as time go by. Because things, what I noticed about their, time frame, they didn't talk about things, which is not a good thing. And I learned from an early age, talking about things, exposing things, the devil uses it against you. And, he will silence you if you allow him to, because he will allow all these circumstances, situations where you don't even want to talk about it. You don't want to discuss it. You just bury it and you forget it and you act like it's not there, but you're not actually dealing with it. So it's still there. You see, that's just like drinking and smoking and getting high and having sex in it away, or having so much ambition that you ambition it away. It doesn't go anywhere, because you do have something called a workaholic, which is just as bad as, someone who was molested or someone who smokes and drinks. Why? Because they still feel as though ambition and money and fame and power, that's their thing. And it's something inside of them that makes them crave that. And usually it's something that, either they were, I would say the tension or, the claps to be idolized and worshiped. Something happened where they didn't feel worthy, or someone made them feel unworthy of their lives. People handle things in different ways. I myself was a workaholic. When it came to school, even though I didn't go much, school was like my outlet. And I love to reading books, because it just took me away from my life's environment of taking care of my siblings that were younger, my mom not being home, because she was on drugs. She would be gone. She would, and it was just a lot going on in the household. And we were taken away a couple times, putting into foster care. And then we finally ended up going in, and I had to wait till my dad got me out. And then with my dad, as much as I loved him, he came around and they were okay, but he wasn't ready for responsibility. He wasn't ready for, to settle down with my mom and let's say be a family, and back then we were taught to accept a man who cheats and we do that to this day, and that is so wrong. We should not teach our children to do the same things that were done to us, to accept it. If he beats you, if he just stayed, that's so wrong. You see what I'm saying? And if he's emotionally, physically, financially, any type of abuse is abuse. And we should not be accepting it. But when you're taught to shut up, when you're taught to not say anything, when you're taught to let it go on, why? Because you love these people and all of this, it's not good. It's really not. And then a lot of times you will say something like I find in a lot of people who were molested or whatever, when they open up their mouths, the devil will silence them again by allowing all these other people to come out and condemn them and tell them, oh, shut up, and why are you talking about it now, and you should have this and you should have that and all of that. Like they are the ones that did this to themselves, and it becomes a whole nother situation. And it makes people really not, as a victim, want to come out and want to speak out about these things, because you're going to face so much more ridicule. And on top of that, you may not even be believed, and then you will become the problem instead of the victim. You're the one that happened to you. And people say, oh, don't use victim. I won't say victim, but I'm a survivor. Why? Because I survived whatever was meant to destroy me. Excuse me, guys, because I've been drinking this coconut water. My mouth is a little dry and I'm thirsty, but anyway. And so like I said, and my dad, he was not. And when we look at these type of things of them not getting married, of them having children out of wedlock, of all of these type of things, both of my parents did go to college. Both of them did have, seemingly decent lives as far as they weren't rich, but they were able to live their lives and support themselves. Now, we weren't rich. Now, my mom's side, she was on welfare and different things. She was. But before all of that, before she had us, she did work. So I guess the more children she continued to have, thinking she was going to keep a man, have a family, and that was her dream and her goal. And everything she was doing to me, it seemed like she was very codependent because her life was centered around being loved and being loved by a man. And I didn't understand that. And some women are just like that. Some women, they don't care. They will sit there and take the abuse because they just want, and that's where the codependency come in at. And it's not just for women like that or men like that. It's for us all because, like I said, codependency is not just one thing. It can be you love attention, you love affirmation, you love for someone to praise you, you love working hard, you love having knowledge, whatever it is you love, whether it's speaking in tongues or having a vision or whatever it is where your heart and your desires are, and you have made an idol, whether it's of money, you like to have a lot of money, you have to be pretty, or have a lot of fame and fortune and whatever in your house, or you're this or you're that, whatever that may be for you. You see what I'm saying? To be, this is me and my status, or if I got a $400 bag on, that makes me who I am. And these type of things, instead of the clothes, you make the clothes and not the clothes making you. And as Black people, I'm just going to tell you, we have a lot of that. We really feel like, our titles or whatever we have make us who we are. And that is that's one thing we don't want to do, because the moment we allow ourselves to be whatever is these titles are, we take away who we really are, because when those titles come and go, it makes us feel like we're not human beings, or we're not good enough, or we're not enough. And God shows us that it doesn't matter what statuses you have here, because you are enough, because I say you are, because you are mine, because I brought you here. So there's a big difference in wrapping yourself up and your self-worth up in these people, places, and things. Very easy to do. Now, I believe something was going on before this. I believe there was some type of, witchcraft or sorcery, or maybe, when you have family from the South, and most of us are, especially African Americans, are brung from other countries here from slavery. And we practice those things in those other places. They keep talking about the ancestors. Listen, ancestors are deities, as we can see. Everyone wants to jump on stuff they do not understand, do not know. You have to ask the people who lived in these places and practice these things, because they're the ones that know what really goes on. And a lot of times we have been duped, okay, whether it's by America or by these other places, because when they come here, tell us whatever. And a lot of time people hide and don't want you to know the truth. Why? Because they don't want you to know what they know. And that's how you stay in bondage. And that's why they said, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. We do not know, we do not understand. And we go by what we see here and what others is doing, and we think that because that is the way, when all actuality, if you get around someone who is willing to tell you the truth, who's not just about getting some money from you and having you look at them and see things a different way, then you will understand the truth. And the truth is that those evil African ancestors and Egyptian gods and all the things, the deities that they worship, that they call ancestors, are actually demons and demonic forces, and they're actually not good for us to be involved with. And so we talk about the white Jesus and all this. Well, I have this, I finally got it the other day, and it is the original Ethiopian Bible, okay? And I finally got my hands on a copy of it, because I had been hearing so much about it for such a long time. And they say that we're whitewashed because we believe in Jesus and all these other things. But in all actuality, that's one of the original Bibles, and it started out in Ethiopia, and it is African descent. So when we think about these things, we must understand that this was around way before Christopher Columbus or whoever in the Crusades or whatever they want to give to us. So do your research, look into more things, because people will lie to you, and it will be, to hurt you. And the devil uses that. He uses what you don't know against you. Why? Because once you get knowledgeable about things, you can start to use it to your advantage as far as your own life. I'm here doing these things because I want to find out about what happened to me, my own life. How did I get here? How did I end up here? All the questions that I have about who I am as a person, and why I think and do the things that I do, why I am who I am the way that I am. And, for the good parts of me, that's fine. But there's things within me that I need to change. There's things within me that I need to see differently, that, in the spiritual and in the natural realm, because it takes both. I still have to do the work, which would be to be able to put forth my efforts, which will be in First Chronicles 28:20. Be strong and courageous and do the work. Don't be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord my God is with you, and he will not fail you or forsake you. He will see to it that the work related to the temple of the Lord is finished. We are his temple. They built the temple, but we are the temple. We house us, our minds, our bodies, souls, house the temple. So once I found of the Holy Spirit, once I found out about the spiritual aspect, because going to churches was not doing it for me. And I love the Lord, but what I knew of as far as change in my life was not happening. I think I went in and out, and I was saving, I would leave, because I wasn't getting there. My life was not changing. And this is what we want. We want to have change. We want to see a difference. And in order for you to do that, you have to seek that out. You have to seek the knowledge. And God says, you seek, knock, and you shall find. And so I'm searching, and it's not about other people and what they have and what they don't. No, this is about me. This is about my own life and whatever I can help and share, like I said, with others who are dealing with these things, who have so many questions about who they are and why they're here and why they act the way they do and why they do the things the way why their life went the way it went, why did they make the choices that they have made in life, And a lot of times we don't even really understand that between the circumstances, the situations, and just the background of our lives, whether it was, the ancestry curses that we were hand and dealt. Why? Because it's just in your bloodline, and it's something that you can't help, but it's something you have to deal with. It's a part of your life. It's a part of your bloodline. And so when I look at these things, like I said, you want to be able to deal with it, because if no one else is dealing with it, it's just going to continue to get passed on. But if everyone is asleep and no one is awake and no one's paying attention, and you're the only one, or God is showing you, then you're the one that God is going to use to let them see what is going on, whether it's within your own life, whether it's you sharing with others so that they may see themselves. And this is where we all come in the body of Christ, to help one another get to the places where we need to be, because we don't want to just sit there and just be stewing in habitual, thoughts, because it started as a thought, habitual cycles and patterns and habits that are very hard to get out of for whatever reason. Now, my parents, they both, my dad smoked weed. He never was a drinker, but he never did any hard drugs. But addiction is in our lives. You see what I'm saying? And someone has to break addiction. Why? Because addiction can be a whole slew of things. It doesn't have to be just drugs. But if you have that as an addiction in your family, then you must understand, one may drink, one may smoke, you see what I'm saying? One may be a workaholic, one may be an alcoholic. You see what I'm saying? But addiction is addiction, no matter what it is. So one of us could be addiction to having attention. You see what I'm saying? Meaning wanting to be loved, wanting to be worshiped, wanting to be idolized. Whatever your addictions are, these are the things we have to look, and we have to look for them in our family, because we have a series of things between ourselves, between our parents and their bloodline, what runs in them, and between or either side, the mother and father. So as I look at my life, and I'm seeing these different things, and then understanding also that a lot of these things is because of the sin. I said I got to do some more research on the actual, like, how cancer, what type of sin comes from. I know it's the spirit of infirmity, but what, symptoms bring that on? What type of cursing brings that on outside of infirmity? Is it idolatry? Is it, whatever it is unforgiveness, because they're all linked to something. And when we look and do the investigations on it, there's someone out there that has the information, or God himself will help you and allow you to see and show, whether it's through your own experience. Like, let's say if someone got cancer or something, God forbid, and then, y'all are trying to figure out, what's going on, or, whatever type of a sickness, but then there's poverty. That's another spirit that is in your bloodlines, where It's fighting your finances. It's fighting, your progress in life. It's allowing you to stay delayed and stagnated and go backwards in life and not progress. But then you got to understand something. These are altars and covenants that are being, out there that were already erected before you were born. And these are the curses that they have that come with them to keep you in a certain placehold in life to where you can't move forward. So now you have to deal with these things in order for you to be able to move forward. And so you need the answers. First of all, you need to know that there's a problem, because I kept seeing things in my life and just not understanding what it was. If you see that no one's getting married and staying married, if you see everyone is being abused, if you see no one's being treated well and loved properly, and whatever the case may be in your own bloodline with your children, yourself, your parents, whatever you see the patterns, whether it's sickness, whether in diseases, whether it's whatever it is, financial situations, whatever it may be. So we have to be paying attention. And this is where the love, hope, and faith, the faith, hope, and love come in. For one, we have to have faith that it will turn around. But before we even get to that, we need to understand sin. God does not like it. He wants you to come out of it. He wants you to come, turn, repent, come to him, so he can help you clean your life up. Because when you sit out, you'll see all of this big pile of stuff that you need to unravel in your life that you didn't even realize was there between the spiritual and natural, and it gives you a lot of answers as to what was going on. So now once you come to him, he's going to show you all of what's going on. You got to get right with him first. You got to get the sin out your life, and then now he's going to continue to work on that, and now he's going to show you all the things that you need to actually be trying to work on with him. In order for your life, you have to unpack all this stuff. He has to clean it up. Like I said, clean up what you messed up and start it whether it was yours or not. Because a lot of us, we have to deal with, other folks' stuff. And then even me seeing the stuff that goes on with my children after, and the different patterns, like I said before, of how these things happen in their lives. So now that I'm looking at it and God's showing me, well, this is why I had you go through this, and this is why I had you go through this, because it all is going to serve a purpose. I was taking care of children while I was a child. I was, going through a whole bunch of adult situations as a child. And I'm like, well, why? And it's because if you're called to lead, if you're called to do certain things, then this is what you're going to be going through, because you have to have the training in order to do. I didn't like it. I didn't like having to go through it that way. Of course not. But that's the way he used it nonetheless. Why? Because it made me who I am now, to be able to stand strong. I was not liked. I was rejected. I was teased. I was talked about. I was mistreated. Because even in that, living now my life, I'm still being treated. But it doesn't affect me. It doesn't bother me the way it did, because I'm so used to it now. Why? That although I didn't like it, it's the way he trained it. So when now that I'm sitting before people and they're ridiculing me for everything I said or how I look and how I dress and if I'm real or if I'm fake or whatever, then I can see for myself, well, Lord, well, that's why I was always being bullied, and that's why no one ever liked me, and they always talk bad about me, and I was bald-headed, and I was this, and I was that, 4 eyes, and I'm like, wow, and it's like, so now it makes sense. Although I didn't like it, I didn't want it. I wish it hadn't been that way, and it was traumatizing and it hurt me, but he used that to get me to here. So now when people say things, I really don't care. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just like, it's a normal thing for me, because I've been dealing with it. Now, the heartache and pain from the other aspect of these things, that bothered me a lot, because it's a lot of hurt, it's a lot of trauma, it's a lot of pain, and God is dealing with that. You see what I'm saying? He's helping me unpack it and go through it, and to understand what went on and why it went on, and how he's going to use it in my life now, and how he needed me to go through those certain situations in order for me to be here and be able to speak to other people who maybe have went into foster care or was abused, or, whatever. Because it's like, you see what I'm saying? Especially when it's by, and you don't like leadership, you don't like to submit. Why? Because you see that all the ones that was over you did not, adults or people of authority, you don't respect them. Why? Because they didn't treat you well as a child. They didn't treat you the way you should have been treated as far as what you see as an adult and how they should operate with children or people they're over as authority figures. They weren't responsible enough. They slacked in areas where it just kind of left you in a position where you had to figure your own life out, and you had to say, well, I don't want nobody to treat me like that. So if anybody want to get too much of telling me what to do and, trying to make me do this, that, and the third, then I'm not going to just go along with them. I'm going to think for myself. I'm going to have a mind. I'm going to speak for myself. Why? Because I can't just go along with everything someone tells me, because even though I had parents, they told me to do certain things. The things they told me to do were not good for me. They hurt me. They messed me up. And so all of these things God is trying to use now to show me. And even when it comes to God, I believe that we even take it out on God. We don't trust him. It allows us, because of these things, to not trust him, to not believe in him, to not have faith in him. And I'm not going to say wholeheartedly, but we have a little reserve. And God is showing me, like, I'm not your mother. I'm not your father. I am God. You have to let me do what I'm doing in your life. You have to trust me enough. You have to give it to me. And so we can become very pessimistic in life. And I did, that things can't change or they won't change. And that once you've been in a lot of crap for a long time in your life, your mindset, the thoughts, and they talk about these demons or these, and needing deliverance. Like I said, because hurt and then deliverance is two different things. Healing and deliverance. When God takes it away. But you got to deal with the ugly. You got to deal with the hurt. You got to deal with what's there. You got to deal with it at the root, why it's there, and have to ask God to help you. And then he will deliver you from it where it no longer hurts you. So when we start talking about these things, but moving forward, the faith, the hope, and the love of having faith that he can do it, having faith that he can heal you and deliver you and restore you and make you whole in the process. And that's what every aspect of your life, being able to have him fix it. Now you have to do your end, because you have to seek. You have to, try to find the answers for yourself, and he'll give it to you. It is still going to be a piece by piece basis. He never gives us everything all at once. But then you can sit here and you can look at it and you'll be like, wow, I see where God, says faith the size of a mustard seed, because without faith we can't please God. Or, what do I wait for and expect? Psalms 39:7. These faith of the size of the month, moving these mountains out of my life, these things that I feel like that would never move. Having a positive outlook and expectation for something good is having hope and having faith, because sometimes, some situations, that's all you will have. You won't have anything but a little bit of hope, the size of a mustard seed, a little bit of faith. You see what I'm saying? And whether you have love there or not, you will have a little pinch of something. And God says, give me that hope, the size of a mustard seed, no matter what the situation. Give me that faith, and I'm going to show you what I could do with it, because that is a seed that he's going to plant, and in time he's going to allow it to grow. So now we must trust that God is alive and that he can do it. And it has to be about more than these, like I said, the negative mind things where we rehearse these things in our mind, the old things. We have to give it to him. We have to finally grieve it, because loss is loss, and release it. No matter the person's situation in our life, we all desperately need hope. We need it, and we need to believe and be confident and anticipate powerful things that God can do in our life if we allow him to, if we give it to him and trust him that he can do it and he can fix it and turn it around for you. Like there's a late in the midnight hour, God's going to turn it around. And this is where we need to expect the unexplainable. And for us not to give up, no matter how bad it is, So when you think about talking about hope, okay, and it being necessary, and it's an amazing, tool to have, because we got to think of the God making the impossible possible, right? Because it said all things are possible with God. Now, it may not be possible with you yourself, and it may not happen right away, but it's possible. But just the thought of it being possible. So if you're out there and you're on drugs and you think you can never get off of, my mother got off of them. She did. She turned her life around. As I said, she has a story of her own to tell. You see what I'm saying? And then, she, and I believe that if she didn't, she might not have made it. So when you think about changing your life, whether it's from drugs, it's addictions, you could be a prostitute, you could be molested, you could have been swinging on a pole, you could be an abuser, whatever it is, homosexuality, so a lot of people get into homosexuality because of molestation and other things, and being around other things, the spirit, sodomy and all these other things could be in them. And having the love of not having a father or a fatherly figure can do that as well. We see a lot of the men are not, and I see why God wanted the mother and the father, because you can bless or curse your children with your words, with your actions. Either you be there, you not, and your hands on with your children. That lets them know either you're blessing them or you're cursing them, both ways. Sometimes we bless and curse not even knowing, being there, because we're doing certain situations that's not good for the children, and it affects them. And then sometimes just not being there can be another way that we affect them, because not being there is just as bad, but then sometimes it's better than being there and hurting them. So it's like, which one is it? Because I asked God myself when it was raising my own children, like a lot of their fathers weren't around. Why? Because, maybe their lifestyle was not good, and he took them and removed them away because it would have been, worse than it was. And I hated being by myself and struggling and all these other things. But hey, if that was God's reasoning behind it, and the way he, wanted it to be, then it just was what it was. And so we got to think about living in sin, because when you live in sin, we can't think, especially in a world full of sin that we're already born into, that our lives is going to be this perfect fantasy fairy tale. We can't sit here and honestly say, oh, that because you met someone, and because, y'all had a child, that y'all going to be together forever, or y'all going to get married, it's going to be a fantasy. We hope that, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily always the way, because guess what? We did those things operating out of what? Out of sin. So we may have already messed ourselves up before we even got started. And sometimes the things that we do, God, he'll allow grace and mercy on them, but it still may not be his ultimate goal for your life. So it may end up that way, and it may not. You see what I'm saying? And it's only God that we can really look to figure these things out. So we got to seek him to find out what it is he wants for us and for our lives. And let me see. And when we place these things on ourselves, faith, love, power, or in people, places, and things, this is how we distort it. Because we put our trust, we put our hope, we put our faith in ourselves and in our abilities and in the people, places, and things that we add these love and value to. Which, like I just said, we can't do that, because we must place that in God, because he is the only one that is, one, stable or will not change, and two, he's the only one that the foundations you should be building your life upon, because that's the only one that's going to weather all of these storms and mountains and peaks and fires and of life, meaning the trials and tribulations of life. He's the glue that holds it all together. And when we think about that and we disregard him and we take him out, we wonder how we're in the situations that we're in now. And this is how we end up there, because we didn't consult God. We didn't put God in anything when we moved, when we got that job, when we got that promotion, when we went and married that person, when we had that child. We didn't consult our Father, the one who created us, as to, is this a good decision for us to make? Or even consider the fact that us just having sex outside of wedlock was already a situation that he did not want us to be doing. So how we want him to bless a situation that, you know what I'm saying, technically speaking, he's not in agreement with anyway. It's not a situation he wants to bless. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because that's what you wanted. It's not what he wanted. So with God, all things are possible, and he does work these situations out for our good in spite of us. And that's the grace and the mercy. Amazing grace, how sweet that sounds. Why? Because no matter what we went through and no matter how we got ourselves into these situations, he will still give us grace and mercy to get us out of them. So no matter how bad you went away and did your thing, when you do ask him, whether you're saved or not, whether you believe in God or not, if you notice, when things went awry and you cried out and he allowed it to grace and mercy to abound and help you in spite of you. So this is why we need to understand that whether we acknowledge God or not, he acknowledges us even when we're not doing right. We got to pay attention. And grace and mercy bound, but it will not abound with you always if you continue, because there's going to come a time where he's going to allow you to be in your own reprobate mind. So where he's going to say, listen, if this is what you want, I'm not going to fight you on it. I'm going to let you have that. Why? Because free will is what we all have. Free will is to make our own decisions. Okay. We got to be dedicated to the work on our end, reading his words to find his answers, seeking, knocking, so we can find. We have to be praying. We have to be fasting. We have to be asking God and mixing it with the faith that he will fix it, and that the hope and the faith that it will be fixed and to turn it around. And know that he loves us no matter what, because that's the biggest one. Because it's going to take love for all of these things. For someone to deal with you and all your mess, it's going to take love. We think about other people when it comes to love, but when it comes to us and our own stuff, love is long suffering. God suffers long for us. He suffers long for us. He waits so tirelessly, effortlessly for us to come back to him, to change. He wants us to have a better life. He sent Jesus Christ here to die on the cross for us to have a better life right here on earth. But are we going to receive it? Are we going to accept it? Are we going to grab hold to it by turning and walking the other direction, meaning away from sin, away from the world, and repenting completely in our minds and our heart, where to transform mind, the way we live, the way we walk, the way we talk, the way we interact in our daily lives. Like I said, I had to sit here and really check myself even now, because of the things that are going on with me and my own children. As a mother, you go through things, especially once they become an adult, because there's things that you would not agree with them. And I always look at it and I said, even with my own parents, that's where the grace and mercy had to come in, because they were going through their own things. And then me becoming a parent, seeing it as I'm seeing it now, because my oldest son is, he's 30. And I have my twins, they're 24, they're girl and boy. And my youngest, he's about to be 20. So I have 4, but I have 3 boys and 1 girl. And I got 2 grands. One is on the way, one I know, and the other one I'm not sure about yet. And even when we look at the men and how we raise them and how we allow them to fornicate and sleep around, and we say that these things is okay, and they can commit adultery and cheat, and they can batter their women, and they can do that. God is not in that. That is the world that says that. You see what I'm saying? The world tells them that, because you cannot lead nobody if you yourself are stuck in a whole bunch of sin and you haven't consulted God. You have no self-control. Why? Because if you had self-control, you wouldn't be running around sleeping with all these women. You wouldn't be getting high. You wouldn't be all these things. Why? Because it takes a person to be in their right mind to raise and be able to have the leadership to be a king over a kingdom, which is your own household. And in order to do that, you need to get the download some God from heaven and be walking with him like Adam was in the garden, to know how to actually guide not just you, because you're the example first as the leader, and you set the tone for the household, along with everyone else who's under you coming behind you, your wife and your children. So you cannot sit here and say that you're going to be the leader and you're going to be the king when you yourself is fornicating, you're smoking weed, you're drinking, you're partying. How can you be leading? Where are you leading them to? What you leading them to Keisha house, the other baby, and other around the corner, all this extra responsibility, all this extra everything? You're not submitted to God. You're out here masturbating. You're out here fornicating. Whatever it is you're doing, you got to let God cleanse you and give all of that up because God takes marriage and he takes families very seriously. Why do you think he reconciled us, his bride, to himself? Why? Because he knew as the leader, as the king, as the head, he had to send himself here. He had to die himself in the flesh and in the spirit in order for him to come back and save who? His family, his bride, his children. Why? Because if you love them, you will sacrifice you. This is what being in a family, a relationship is all about. I know this because as a woman, as a mother, I've had to sacrifice my whole life for my children, for my family. Why? Because this is what is required of you in order to have that crown. You want to be the queen. You want to wear the crown. You have to sacrifice in order to be doing that. Why? Because it comes responsibility. It is not a, oh, you did. No, you have to go through things. You have to be submitted. You have to sacrifice. You have to give up whatever in order, because you can't be selfish. It's not about you. It's about them. This is why I can't with people who never been married. I can't with people who don't have children, because you are some of these most selfishest people we know. And don't get me wrong, people who have children, who do not take care of them, who do not want to be bothered, who have every excuse in the world why they can't beat it, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, please understand, you either sending blessings or curses by your own attitude, your own hands, your own way, your mind, soul, and body, the way you think, move to your own children. Why? Because God said he does not bless, a man who leaves his household is cursed with a curse. Why? Because you're the one that bless and curse your household, especially you men, as the ones who's supposed to be in the household, as the priests of your household. You're supposed to be the one covering the household and doing all the heavy work. Why? Because you are the priest of the household. The most sacrifice and the most everything is coming from the men. When you look at the Bible, it was the men who were doing all of these things, the sacrifices, the this, the telling it right. So when you look at, but they had to give up what? All this other stuff. We pick and choose what we want out of this Bible like it's a Fruit Loop box. Oh, submit to the man, submit to this. Listen, before you want somebody to submit to you, you better be submitted to God, because no woman has to submit to a man who is not already submitted to God. Please, her and her household does not. That's the authority God gives you to have over them. So if you're submitted to the devil, she does not have to do submission to you. No, she did not. Why? Because you sending her and that family straight to hell. These people would tell you these things, but honey, no. So all that shut up, sit down, listen to me, do what I say, because that submissive part got everybody head filled up. But what about your duties in the spiritual and in the natural as a head of a household, as a king of a kingdom who is supposed to rule? Because heavy is the head that wears the crown. Whether you the queen or the king, there's duties, there's responsibilities to run in the kingdom. Whether wars breaking out, decisions to be made, all of these things, can you lead? Do you know how to lead? And before you lead, you must submit and be submitted to God, because Jesus came and he washed their feet and he did what he said. He showed before you teach and lead, you must already be taught. Submit it yourself, humble. You can't you can't walk before you crawl. You got to crawl before you walk. And this is how you learn. So when I'm sitting here and I'm having these conversations, whether it's at your job and you go there and you take things lightly, I work with people. When I tell you, I see them come in, and I'm a type of person, anything God gives me, I want him to bless the work of my hands in the spiritual and the natural. I'm not going to go to these people's job and just be late and don't do my job and don't do this and don't. No, I'm going to go to these people's place of work, whatever their policies and procedure. Why? There's policy procedure everywhere, in our homes, everywhere, right? In the spiritual and in the natural. But as a God-fearing woman, I have to go in there and be what? Submitted, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Right. I'm going to respect that this is their stuff. Whether I agree with it a lot, there's a lot of that stuff with the, alphabet community and us. I do not agree with it, but am I going to go in there and mistreat people because of that? No, God didn't call me to do that. I'm supposed to love them regardless and assist them anyway, whether I agree with them in their lifestyle or not. Now, my job would tell me to do all this extra stuff. Certain things I cannot do because of my, belief in God. But when it comes to the things that is not interfering with my walk, with my relationship with God, I'm fine with it, because outside of that, whatever they do is what they do. Do I pray for them and say in my mind, Lord, help these people in my mind? Yes, I do. But do I say, oh, you wrong? Oh, no, I can't do that. I have to have wisdom within myself. This is a job. I have to come to this job and I have to do what I need to do to live. And this is what we're talking about when people got to have, the wisdom of how to maneuver here on the earth. Even though you're spiritual beings, you have to be able to maneuver here. You can't be so heavenly minded that you're not any earthly good. You have to be able to, reach people. But we're not talking about crossing over lines. We're not talking about, telling them it's okay. No, I don't agree with your lifestyle. I don't. I understand, but I won't disrespect you And me and you gonna be the best of buddies? No, but I will respect you, respect whatever it is you have going on, and I'm gonna live my life the way I live my life. But here, when I come into this building, is a way that I have. Am I gonna mistreat you? No, whether I agree with what you have going on or not. God didn't teach me to do that. He didn't tell me to do that. Because when he walked the earth, it don't matter who and what sin they did. He loved them all. He hated the sin. He didn't agree with them in their sin. And he would heal them and he would help them and all of that. Whether they acknowledged him, thanked him, came back and dealt with him, followed him or not. Because when you think about it, there's a lot of people who did not thank Jesus. They did not be bothered with Jesus. They got what they wanted and they left. And they went on about their business and you never heard from the people ever again. And I have to understand, even as myself being a part of this walk in life in the spiritual and the natural, this may be the case for me too. We got to look at Jesus and his life and what he had going on. Because looking at man, we're going to see all the flaws. Why? Because we're flawed. We can't look to us. We have to look to him because he is the example. We are not the example. That's why he was the one that went to the cross. So that's why it says all of these things in the beginning of boasting, speaking in tongues, all this other stuff, all these other gifts, all of that sounds great and wonderful. And everybody wants to reiterate all of that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to discount or discredit them. But what I am saying is because God gave them to us and we are to respect each other's gifts and talents. We are. And each other individually. But what I'm saying is we don't want to be worshipped, idolized, and adored. We can't do that for whatever it is we have going on. It is not us, it's he that lives in us. That lives and moves and have our being. He is him. And the more, like I said, that I'm learning about, even with the thoughts and the actions and all of these things and evil demonic forces, the household spirits, the familiar spirits, the monitors, this is warfare. And it's never a time because it's around the clock, 24/7. The devil don't take no breaks, and his demons don't either. They don't have to eat and sleep and stuff like we do. They are around the clock attacking you, attacking your life, attacking everything that's going on. Why? Because the bottom line, especially when you're a child of God and you're trying to live right, he don't want you to succeed. You are a problem to the kingdom of Satan. So when people see you going through changes and they, it's like it's fun. It's not, because you're actually warring not just for you in your life, but for your children and your children's lives. That thing is serious. Even and up until death, Satan don't have no care about you and your life and your children's life. But we have to allow the faith, the hope, and the love, no matter what is going on. If you're homeless, if you're broken down, if you ain't got no job, if you ain't got no money, whatever, if you're on drugs, if you're prostituting, whatever. And then we got to think about the world because, like I said, even with what we're seeing going on with the trafficking and all that, they say that girl's crazy. That girl's not crazy. The Port Authority people, them port people that was transferring and they went on that strike and stuff, they was talking about how for years they've been hearing people, how you think them illegals get over here? By land, air, and sea. Don't get it twisted. They're being shipped. There's more money to be made off bodies and slavery. It's hidden now. But the sex trafficking and all these other things that is going on in this world. Let's not forget what is going on. We have to pay attention because the cup of iniquity is runneth over. And we have to pay attention because they're lining us up for what God said. They're doing it in the natural and in the spiritual here, right in front of our eyes. The cup of iniquity is so great. Why? So much sacrifice and so much bloodshed. All these years, look, innocent of kidnapping, trafficking, molestation, all this sodomization. For what? Power, fame, money, witchcraft, whatever it is. This is how these people are allowed to be in these Illuminatis, the presidency. All of these people can be tied back to one another. And that's not just one, that's globally. So when we're looking, like I said, when I was talking in the beginning about how I came to my situation, at that time as a child, you didn't pay attention to the crack and the crackademic and what was going on in the world. But I have to pay, as much as I hate watching the news, I have to pay attention to some things that's going on. All these executive orders with this tariffs and stuff that he got going on. A lot of that was about the trafficking because of what was inside those cargoes, and the poor people, they wanted more money. Why? Because they knew what was going on. And then number two, it was also because AI is taking away their jobs. It's not just because they cared, because if they cared about it, they would have said something a long time ago. The reason that them people started striking and saying something is because they knew their jobs and their own families. So it was okay that the trafficking was going on. Please understand it was. It been going on. And they've been cargoing them off. The problem was now they understood that their jobs are going to be taken away by AI. So now they want to make an issue. And see, we got to look at these things from how they are. It's not that they cared. Like now, the trafficking, Ally Carters are talking about a lot of things that is going on in this world. They're saying she's a liar. They're saying this, that, and the third. But we see Kanye and all of them. We see these people. We see their demons, the demon-filled, demonic. We see they have these altars. We see the similar. And we would still, like I said, the devil would allow you to believe the lie before the truth because it's ugly. He would allow the little molester to come out and speak, and y'all would say that's a lie. Y'all don't agree. Y'all take the child and take the situation and throw him in the pit of fire. Oh, hang him. This is what they did to Jesus. He had no fault. He was not the reason. He spoke the truth, and guess what they did? Crucified him. Now, see, if it was y'all and y'all children and y'all situation, then you would care. But because it's not you, you don't care. And because people benefit, monetize, whatever off of it, they really don't care. And until some stuff hits your doorstep. And this is why I say, Lord, a lot of things have hit my doorstep. And this is why I'm supposed to speak and say something about it. Whether it's domestic violence, don't keep shut. You're not supposed to be, be mute. You're supposed to speak. I forget that. I got to find that scripture where it talk about not being mute and speaking for on behalf of those who are silent and cannot speak for themselves. That child Ally Carter out there, and y'all just been doing her poor life up. The child just got so much going on, and instead of folks helping and wanting to accept what she say as real, because it's hard to come out and speak about these type of things, they want to stone the child and tell her she crazy and all type of stuff. It's ridiculous. She got a lot of healing and stuff she has to do, and that God has to help her with as well. Going through these things is traumatic, especially when you're a part of witchcraft and seances and sacrificial stuff. And, you know, although she's the victim right now, being full of them demons or whatever they placed upon her mind, her body, her mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and physical. Look at her going from state to state high now. We have to stop doing that. Especially when it condemning the already one that's you know already a victim, or you know, I mean, I wouldn't call it victim because she's surviving. God is keeping her, and I think, you know, thank him and pray for that. But we have to be very, very, you know, mindful of what we're doing and how we're doing these things. The music industry is very demonic and evil, but people will sit there and say, oh, and they will listen to everything coming out of it and would tell you and argue you down. Oh, Jesus ain't real, this one ain't real. But you sit here, you believe these people that's on this place because they got a few dollars and they look good. Oh, they look got folks changing their bodies up. Why? Getting all these surgeries to look like these people, to look better, to feel better. For what? You don't know them people back there drinking blood and killing children to look good, to keep their youth, while you sitting here thinking you going to get your body done to look like them. They doing way more than what you think they doing behind the scenes to look the way that they look. But you killing yourself up to go on the table because somebody said, oh, you need to look like this. Is you crazy? I digress. But see, that's the motive, and we got to be careful. Like I said, when it comes to money, power, we don't believe the one who's selling you. We believe the one with the influence. We believe the one with the money, with the power, with the applause. These are the ones why? Because when we look at the situation, we believe them because we want to be like them. We envy them. We covet them. This is the problem. This is why you can't believe a person who's regular. You'll sit there, talk about me. You'll say, I ain't this, I ain't that, I ain't that. I don't look this way, I don't look that. God ain't using me, he ain't in me, all this other stuff. That's fine. Say and do what you want to do, baby. Looking into my life, looking into how to destroy me, how to discredit me, whatever. Listen, go ahead, do what you need to do. Jesus said, because for my name's sake, you will be persecuted. You will go through trials. You will go through tribulation. Every last one of his apostles went through some of everything down here. So if he went through it, who do you think we are? We're going to go through it. If Jesus Christ went through it, we're going to go through it. So I said, take up your cross and follow me. Why? Because going to the cross is not an easy situation. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane. He prayed, please, if this cup is not for me, take it away. What was in that cup? Pure iniquity, pure sin of the whole world. That's why when he saw it, he started to cry. And he was praying and all of that, so much the sweat and blood was profusing. He knew the extreme of the pain that he would have to endure. And he still chose to take it. And I thank him so that we could be saved, so this world could be saved. So that Satan would be defeated. So we got to look at what's going on, because they're lining us up. The tariffs, the this, the that. They're going to tell us one thing. It's going to be a totally different situation. Whatever they telling us ain't really what's really going on, because behind the scenes, so much more. It's an illusion and a delusion. We need to have hope and faith in God that he is still going to be there and that his love endures forever, that he came so we can have life more abundantly here in spite of what's going on. You have to have whatever little piece of happiness and insanity that you can find here while you're here. Do that, be that. And I'm not talking about in a way that glorifies the devil. I'm talking about sitting down with the word, with God, and doing godly things that are wonderful, that are clean and pure, that are, you can live a life like that. It is not impossible. Is it difficult at times? Yes, but it is not impossible. But this is why people want to look into your life to see what you're doing. Or am I perfect? No. But you can live a submitted life if you want to. If it's in your heart, if it's in your mind. Do you have to get up every day and work at it? Yes. Is it an easy situation? No. You got to fight your flesh daily. Yes, you do. But I fight. Why? Because greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I have faith. I have hope that God is changing me, transforming me little by little each and every day. The more I walk towards him, the better off my life is going to be. So because of his love, because out of all of them, we have to have love, because when you operate out of love, and it's the true agape love, the long suffering, you will operate out of the way that God is wanting us, not out of man and out of each other and our opinions and thoughts. Okay, everything that God says love is, that's what it is. And when it comes to moving forward, because we don't want to stay in all of the negative in the thoughts, and this is why we have to have hope, we have to have faith in that he can transform our minds, our hearts, and make them better. Where eventually one day we'll get to the point that whatever's going on in our lives, we're still going to hope that God is going to make it better. We're still going to have faith that he's going to move when it's his time to move. And we're still going to have the hope and faith and to know that we know that no matter what's going on in our lives, he still loves us. And that no matter what the situation is, no matter how ugly it is, he still loves us. He's going to do it on his time. He just wants us to have the hope and the faith the size of a mustard seed. And to love him enough to continue. Why? Because if we only love him when he's good, when he's doing what we want, that's not love. That's just like, a person that you love and they only love you and want to be bothered with you when they're getting what they want from you. And other than that, they don't love. That's not love. That's a usership. And see, we got to look at even that in our lives with every aspect, our jobs, everything, our families, our children, our friends. Is these relationships reciprocal? And sometimes they're not going to be reciprocal, but we still got to love people anyway. Now, if they're hurting us, no, God doesn't tell us to sit there and stay. We can suffer long, but there's a certain way that you must go about doing certain things. Because if it's up to a detriment of your mind, you got to sacrifice yourself for them, and they're in a way that is of the devil. No, you're not supposed to do that. You can love them and love them from a distance. I tell people all the time, your family and your relatives are two different things. Relatives is people you're related to by blood. Family is those who, whether they're blood or not, that they are, you see what I'm saying? Your own little, where you consider each other to be family. Why? Because of the bonds that you have established together. The way you operate and treat each other healthily and not dysfunctionally. And we have come to learn dysfunction as love for such a long time. And although it will have its times of when it will be uneasy or dysfunction, it's not supposed to be a lifetime situation of that. And this is what God has to show you, me, and all of us, that no matter what is going on in our lives, he came that we can have life more abundantly. Not so we can be dragged through the mud and be somebody's doormat because they don't like you, they don't want you to have nothing, they don't covet you, whatever, that your life is supposed to be so terrible because they're not God in your life. And they don't have that rulership over you to tell you that whether they want it or not. And all that's going to happen to them eventually, they're going to find that seed they're sowing to you on their own selves, because that is a seed. And we reap both good and bad seed. God is not a man that he should lie or be mocked. Whatever thou plant, meaning sow, you will reap it in due time. Seed time and harvest. Time and the season for everything. God says it. We have winter, spring, summer, fall for a reason. So, Isaiah 43:18, allow God to cleanse, to heal and deliver. Forget the things that happened in the past. Do not keep thinking about them. And when I say that, I have to learn, like, even in the Bible when he told her not to look back, Lot's wife. And it's not, and I had to ask God to help me with this. It's not that we want to look back and we want to look back to reminisce or take us there to hurt. That's why I was like, even with the book, I don't know if I want to write it. I talk about certain things. It's out of reference because God is moving me in a different place of healing and restoration and deliverance. And because he's moving me into this cleansing, because he's cleansing me, okay, of all of these things, meaning purging, taking them out of me, allowing me to hurt and to leave it with him on the altar, allow him to burn it and take it so that I'm no longer hurt and bitter and angry and upset about it, and to be able to forgive and really forgive, meaning to be around the person and it not bother me anymore and not even think about it. That's when you're delivered, when you're healed, when you can love them again after everything has settled and it not be an issue or problem. That's how you know when you've really been healed and delivered. Because if you think that you've been healed, but you haven't been delivered, when you get around that person, it's still going to be there, it's still going to hurt, it's still going to haunt you. And don't think the devil don't want that, because he will put them thoughts and demons in your mind. That's why God got to cleanse you here and here. He said, I'll give you a new heart. He'll give you a new heart and a new mind. He'll renew it or he'll give you a new one. Whatever way he sees fit. So I'm asking him to do that with me, to wash me, to cleanse me, or to take it out. But if he have to give me a new mind and give me a new heart, do that, because I just want to be whole. I want to be operating in this new me and not the things of the past. But if I need to use these things, those tools that you show me in my training to bring it back, not to go back because I want to be a part of the pain, but so whoever else is out there struggling with these things, that they know God loves them and he is able to heal. He is able to make them whole. But they got to want to give it up. They got to want to move towards God and not away from him, and out of all of the stuff, come out of what they're in order for him to do that. And that takes faith. That takes hope. You see what I'm saying? And it's going to take them to love themselves enough to want, because you can't force people to get cleansed and changed. Some people don't want to, and whether they see it, they don't want to do the work. It hurts. It's not an easy process. It's an ongoing process. And when you get tired and you really want to do it, you will do it. But until then, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. You can show them, you can tell them all you want to. And the one thing I've learned, whether it's me, my own children, whatever, life experiences will teach you, will show you better than any other, if you're paying attention. Because if you're not, you're doomed to repeat the same pattern, cycles, and things over and over again. Why? Because you haven't learned. And learning is more than just seeing it, it's applying it where it needs to be applied. That's just like reading the word and all this other stuff. We have to apply these things, because reading about it and not applying it is not going to help us. You're not going to see any change in your life. So we can go to church, we can praise, we can worship all day, but if we're not applying the things as needed, where needed, allowing God to take some things out, put some things in, change this, do that, then we're not going to grow. We're not going to heal, and we're not going to move forward. So we have to. And I was in this pessimistic attitude and this pessimistic life, to where, do I really feel like God can change and move and do these things? And I say it, but do I really feel it? And God had to show me, Tabitha, I love you, my daughter, but you're not there yet. You're not there yet. Because I'm still working on you. But these are some areas you still need to work in. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to help you get there. And it may not be right away. And it may not even be the way you like it, the way I'm going to use it and do it. But we're going to get there. Well, he had to break your heart and take you away from these people because they weren't no good, because he knew that they were no good for you. So he allowed them to reject you and not want to be bothered with you. But that wasn't the person he had for you anyway. So guess what? He moved you away. That wasn't the town. That wasn't the job. That wasn't the opportunity for the business. Why? Because you could have gotten into it in 10 years now. It would have been just devastating. It could have destroyed you. So we got to think about these things. And his love for us is the love that is just so, you cannot describe the love that he has for you. It's a love that no one ever will give you on earth. It's not a love. It's not that type of a love. And this is why, please go and look at this, because it is the book of love, or the chapter about love, and it speaks about it, and it's so clear, and it lets us see and understand and explains that God's real love. This Bible is a love story from God to us, of how all of these things happen, and it's like a drama unfolding, and how in the end he's going to restore. He's going to come back for his bride, the church, and this the ones who truly love him and his chosen people and save them. And no matter what's going on in this world, we still have to have hope to know that he promised us these things, faith to know that he's coming, and the love of him to endure all these things until he gets here. And to be moving and working while we're here with our hands and preaching and teaching the gospel or spreading it in whichever way, whether it's prophecy, deliverance, whatever gift and talent he has given you, to be diligently working until he comes back, and ask him to bless everything you have going on, your hands that are put to work and anointed for his work and not the devil's, so that way it will be prosperous. You will plant and he will one plant, one water, and God will give you the increase, and you will see the fruits of your labor right here as well as in heaven. So this is what we want, because there's a crown waiting for us up there. And we want to be diligently doing what we're doing. When God comes back, when Jesus cracked the sky, I want to be diligently doing what he's called me to do. That way, when he comes, I'm not just idle. There's a passage about the talents, being idle, having your talents, burying them, not using them, God taking them from you, giving it to others, and all these type of things. And him just being like, listen, why would you hide what I gave you? You're supposed to be using it. But you're not supposed to use it, like I said, for Satan. If God gave you those gifts and talents, it's for you to use for the kingdom. We all have a purpose and an assignment, and we need to be getting on it. There are people waiting for you who needs to hear your story, who needs to understand where you come from. Whatever it is your gifts and your talents are, they are waiting for you. There's a path that for just people you're meant to come in contact with. And they are the ones that God is going to use you, okay, as his tool in whatever capacity that he would have for you to be a difference and to let your light shine. We're the salt of the earth. We give it flavor. We are the light. And this is what we're supposed to be doing. So I hope that this message blessed somebody, because it really blessed me. And I'm still, like I said, God is still working on me in every aspect, from my life, my job, my kids, my this, my, in every aspect. And he's showing me, what's going on. And I want you to pay attention to your own life and look at it and see what is going on with you yourself as it pertains to your life and what has happened and what you're gifted to do and called to do, and how you can help in whatever capacity. We were homeless. We were, children, where we were hungry and didn't have much, and always, and had to live and work with what we had. So it's like, when I speak to people and they talk about the money, it's not that I don't like money, have money. It's just I've been on both ends where I had a few dollars and I didn't. I just want to work in a capacity of whatever God has called me to do, or whatever I have or don't have. Because remember, there's going to come a time, even as believers, where we're not going to have finances. This is what we need to understand. It may not be right this minute, but it's coming. Why? Because he said in the end times there will be famine, there will be pestilence, there will be all these things, but he didn't exclude us from it. Even though we're here and we're believers, okay, he will provide for us. Yes, he will. But he didn't exclude us from trials and tribulations. So we must understand that. So we are bruised and not broken. I want everyone to be blessed with this message. Make sure you have hope. Hope and faith go together, and love more than anything. And we want to be operating out of these things, and we want to allow God to heal us and to deliver us and to restore us, so that we are able and equipped to go out and do what it is that we need to do on his timing. You see what I'm saying? At his timing, to go out and do what needs to be done here and whatever he has for us to do and whoever we're supposed to reach. So like I said, be blessed, you guys. I hope that this was a message that we all can learn from. We all can look at our lives and be like, because if God can use me and he could use you in all of your mess and whatever you've been involved in and went through in your life, it is for someone else, so that you can get them to a point to where through God and through Christ and his healing of your life and the miracles they'll see pouring from you, that you yourself are walking, talking like a miracle. And then they'll see that if God can do it for you, they can do it for them as well. It doesn't matter how far you have gone, as long as you are still alive. Grace and mercy still abounds. God is giving you time to make it right, to restore and come back to him. And he's calling you each and every day as you are out and about and you're seeing people on the street. Repent, the kingdom of heaven is in here. You know, they're out there with the pamphlets and they're asking you on the street or online, or you see a message. God is planting, watering, increasing all the time. We just have to be paying attention. So please pay attention. Do not get left behind. Do not live your life and then go to hell. You want to live this life and go to heaven, and you want to have whatever it is that God has for you, and you want to fulfill your purpose and your assignment, your God-given birthright, that's the reason you were put here to solve a problem. Whenever God sees issues in life, he births it. You are the answer to these problems that's here. So don't think little of yourself. Don't think that you're nothing and you're nobody and your life is nothing, because God sees you, he hears you, he knows you. He knew you before you were born. He put you here and he loves you, and he wants you to turn to him and not all of these other things that are worthless, okay, in life. You will find yourself grasping at straws and never fulfilling and never being happy and never having peace and never having joy. And it's just, never enough from the things of the world and of life. You have to have God as the center, and he wants that relationship with you. He wants to love on you. He wants to show you something different, but you have to have the hope, the faith, and the love enough to turn to him so he can show you something different that this world can never ever compete with or show you about. Please understand that. I want to have not wealth, meaning riches. I want to be in good health, me and my children in good spirits, in our right minds. I don't want to trade that for these things of the world. And the only place that I'm going to find that is in God, because he will bless you. He will enlarge your territories. He will give you these things, but he wants to give it to you as a whole. See, the devil will give you stuff and you have to give up something to sacrifice something. No, God blesses you and you're a blessing. You're whole in your blessings. You see what I'm saying? You're not lacking anything. And that's where I want to be in life. You see what I'm saying? Everyone not called to be rich and powerful and famous and all. Some are. And if that's their calling, then that's their calling. And some are not. Some will be in the middle. Some will be on the bottom end. Wherever. But nobody is too big or too small when it comes to God. He loves us all. He wants what's best for us all as a whole, in the spiritual realm and in this natural realm. Because remember, everything goes on in the spiritual realm first. We just see the fruits of it here on earth after it's already gone on there. So like I said, be blessed everywhere. We are bruised and not broken. We are moving forward mightily every day, establishing the kingdom. Why? Because we're taking back territories for God that the devil has had bound up, held up, stagnated, delayed, distracted. This is what we want to do. We want to set captives free. We want to, every caged soul, every trapped yoke, bondage, chain that is on their life, that is holding them in bondage, holding them back from being all that God created them and wanted them to be. They have to be released by the blood of Jesus. Whatsoever we bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And I'm saying, break every chain, loose every shackle, and free, set the captives free. This is what Christ came for. He came and he died so we have life, have it more abundantly right here, to be whole and be blessed right here on earth, in the spiritual and in the natural. Why? Our mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual health, wealth, and good being as a whole. This is what we were created to be here. Because before sin crept in, this is what it was. Love you guys. Be blessed. We are bruised, not broken. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment to this channel and to what it is that God is trying to do throughout my life and my journey, and my, showing me throughout my own life, my understanding of him and what he's doing and transforming me in my life. And it's just to help whoever it is. If it's not for you, chew the bones. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. Everything's not for everybody. Love you guys. Be blessed. And until the next message, bruised and not broken. Later.